Olivia will always remember the evening that changed her life. She had worked overtime that day, not leaving the office until nearly 7 o'clock, dragging her exhausted body home. She opened the front door and immediately saw her husband, Mark, sitting on the living room couch. He held a glass of bourbon in his hand, his feet propped up on the coffee table. The television was on, but he wasn't watching it. He looked like he was waiting for her. This scene made Olivia feel a faint sense of unease. In their 5 years of marriage, Mark almost never waited for her in the living room. Usually, he was either in his home office playing video games or making excuses about working late and entertaining clients to stay out all night. Sometimes, they only saw each other 2 or 3 times a week. "You're back," Mark said. His tone was unusually calm, even carrying a trace of deliberate gentleness. Olivia kicked off her heels, took her phone out of her purse and slipped it into her pocket, then set her bag on the entryway console table. She nodded. "Yeah, I was busy wrapping up the project audit. You got home pretty early today." "Sit down. I have something to discuss with you," Mark said, patting the empty spot on the couch next to him. Olivia walked over and sat down. Looking at Mark's expression, she felt something was very wrong. Whenever he spoke to her lately, he was either dismissive or impatient. Suddenly, bringing up a formal discussion most likely meant bad news. "What is it?" "Just say it," Olivia said. Mark set down his glass and crossed his arms over his chest, as if trying to organize his thoughts. After a long while, he finally spoke. "You remember Chloe, right?" Olivia's heart sank heavily. Of course she knew the name Chloe. That was Mark's former coworker. She had resigned from his company 2 years ago and supposedly vanished from his life. But Olivia had sensed very early on that their relationship was not entirely innocent. Last summer, she had seen suggestive text messages on Mark's phone. Messages like, "I missed you today," and "When can we see each other next?" At the time, she confronted him, but Mark stubbornly insisted it was just a joke. He even blamed her for making a mountain out of a molehill and being paranoid. They had a huge fight, but eventually the issue was swept under the rug. From then on, a thorn had been buried in Olivia's heart. It wasn't that she had never thought about digging deeper, but back then, she felt that as long as Mark came back to the family, she could let the past go. After all, they had 5 years of marriage. She didn't want to give up easily. But now, Mark bringing up Chloe's name out of nowhere instantly magnified her anxiety. What about her? Olivia tried to keep her voice as steady as possible. Mark fell silent for a few seconds, then, as if making a massive decision, blurted it all out at once. "She just had a son for me, born a few days ago." Olivia felt a loud buzz in her head, like a thunderclap had exploded right beside her ear. Her entire body froze on the couch. Her mouth opened, but she could not utter a single word. "The baby is." Her voice was so dry it felt like her mouth was full of sand. "He is mine." Mark lowered his head. His tone, however, was crisp and definitive, as if admitting it was much easier than hiding it. Olivia felt the room spinning. Married for 5 years, she had always hoped to have a child of her own. But Mark always said the timing was wrong, that the financial pressure was too high. He kept delaying it year after year. She was already 32 this year. Her career was stable, and their finances had improved. She thought they could finally start trying for a baby this year. "What did you just say?" Olivia's voice began to tremble. "Don't get emotional. Let me finish." Mark reached out to grab her hand, but she violently slapped it away. "You're telling me not to get emotional?" Olivia stood up, glaring at the man in front of her. "You kept a woman on the side, you had a baby with her, and you are telling me not to get emotional? Mark, what do you take me for?" "Sit down first, I haven't finished." Mark's tone began to fill with impatience. "What's done is done. Yelling about it won't change anything. I wanted to talk to you today to discuss something else. What else could there possibly be?" Mark stood up, turned his back to Olivia, walked to the sliding glass door leading to the patio, and turned back around. He then delivered a sentence that completely shattered Olivia's world. "Chloe is recovering from childbirth. She can't handle a newborn all by herself, and she has no family around to help. I want you to go over and take care of her for a while." The living room was so quiet that the ticking of the wall clock was deafening. Olivia thought she had misheard. She stared at Mark's face, trying to find any trace of a sick joke. But his expression was terrifyingly serious. "Say that again." Olivia enunciated every single word. "I said, I need you to go take care of Chloe while she recovers," Mark said, his tone sounding as if he were discussing the most ordinary chore in the world. "Her parents live out of state in Florida and have health issues, so they can't fly up. She is weak from giving birth and has to tend to an infant. She simply can't manage. I have to work during the day, so I can't be there. Hiring a full-time postpartum night nurse is way too expensive, Easily over $6,000 a month. I am under a lot of financial pressure right now, so I need you to go. You want, Olivia interrupted him, her voice quivering. You want your wife to go serve your mistress while she recovers from having your illegitimate child? Mark, are you out of your damn mind? Can you stop using that word? Mark frowned. She isn't a mistress. We have real feelings for each other, and the child is already born. Whether you accept it or not, he is my flesh and blood. As my wife, can't you be a little more generous? Generous. Olivia found that word absolutely absurd. You cheat on me behind my back, you get another woman pregnant, and now you want me to be her live-in maid. Tell me, what wife in this world would be generous enough to do that? You are just too petty, Mark raised his voice. Chloe didn't even mind your existence, but you are out here judging her. Let me tell you, this is not up for debate. You will go over there tomorrow and take care of her until she is fully recovered. It's not like I'm asking you to serve her for the rest of your life. Looking at the man before her, Olivia felt he was entirely alien and absolutely disgusting. She had been married to him for 5 years. How much had she sacrificed for this household? Her salary, her time, her youth, all poured into it. And him? He found a mistress, had a baby, and now wanted his wife to act as a free nanny. I am not going. Olivia's voice was ice cold and resolute. Not only will I not take care of her, but from this day forward, I never want to see your face again. Mark, you make me sick. She turned around to head to the master bedroom to pack her bags. After barely 2 steps, Mark grabbed her arm hard. Stop right there. Mark's face flushed crimson. I am trying to discuss this reasonably with you. Don't push your luck. Let go of me. Olivia struggled to shake off his grip. You have to agree today. Otherwise what? Olivia stopped and looked directly into his eyes. The next second, a resounding slap landed on her left cheek. The immense pain caused Olivia to stumble back 2 steps, nearly falling over. She braced herself against the wall, clutching her burning cheek, completely stunned. In 5 years of marriage, Mark had never laid a hand on her. Today, because she refused to serve his mistress, he actually hit her. Then get the hell out, Mark roared, his eyes bloodshot. If you refuse to help, then get the hell out of this house. You're useless anyway. You couldn't even give me a child. Chloe gave me a son. What are you even worth? Every single word pierced Olivia's heart like a rusted knife. It wasn't that she couldn't have children. It was that he wouldn't let her. For the past 5 years, every time she brought up trying for a baby, Mark pushed it off. It turned out it wasn't about bad timing. He simply didn't want a child with her. Because he already had another woman, and he was already building a legacy elsewhere. And she had been kept in the dark like a complete fool. Olivia stood frozen. The stinging pain on her cheek actually made her mind clearer than it had ever been. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She merely stared at Mark, the man she once thought she would spend her life with. The very last shred of emotional attachment she had for him shattered completely the moment that slap landed. Fine. Her voice was terrifyingly calm. You want me to get out? I will. But you remember every single word you said to me today. With that, she turned, walked into the bedroom, and locked the door. Outside, Mark was still cursing loudly. Leave if you want. This house is exactly the same without you. Who do you think you are? The world will keep turning without you. Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, her right hand still trembling slightly. She touched her cheek. A small, burning welt had already begun to swell. She stood up, walked over to her vanity mirror, and looked at herself. The clear outline of a handprint glared angrily on her left cheek. She took out her phone and snapped several clear photos of her face in the mirror. Once done, she immediately uploaded the photos to her secure cloud storage. This wasn't weakness. This was evidence. Olivia sat at her vanity for a long time. Her mind played the last 5 years of their marriage like a movie reel. She and Mark had met through a college friend. Back then, Mark treated her incredibly well. He was attentive, drove her to and from work, and always had thoughtful gifts for the holidays. She thought she had met the right person. They got their marriage license after a year of dating. When they got married, they pooled their savings and bought a modest suburban house. They split the down payment equally and paid the mortgage together. Later, they bought a car together, though it was registered under Mark's name because he needed it more for his commute. The first 2 years of marriage were relatively smooth. Although Mark occasionally exhibited toxic masculine traits, like expecting her to do the bulk of the household chores or making financial decisions without consulting her, Olivia believed that marriage required compromise. She turned a blind eye to it. When did it start to change? Probably around the 3rd year. Mark came home less and less. His excuses about working late and client dinners multiplied. When she called him, he was either in a meeting or dining with clients, hanging up after barely 2 sentences. Once, he came home smelling of alcohol, leaned back on the couch, and casually asked, "If there ever comes a day when we can't make this work anymore, what would you do?" Olivia had thought he was just rambling drunkenly and brushed it off. Looking back now, that was probably the exact moment he started plotting his alternate life. Then came the suggestive text with Chloe she found on his phone. Even though he denied everything, deep down, Olivia already knew the truth. She just hadn't been willing to face it. Now all the disguises and facades had been ripped away. The child was born. He couldn't even be bothered to pretend anymore. Not only did he stop pretending, but he also demanded she serve the other woman. When she refused, he hit her and told her to get out. Olivia took a deep breath, picked up her phone, and scrolled to a number she hadn't contacted in a long time. Sarah, her best friend from college, who was now a highly successful family law attorney. Sarah had never been a big fan of Mark. She had warned Olivia privately a few times back in the day, saying he was a smooth talker and unreliable. But Olivia was deeply in love at the time and wouldn't listen. Sarah eventually dropped the subject. After graduation, they both got busy with their careers, and their contact lessened. But the foundation of trust remained solid. She drafted a long text message, briefly detailing what had happened, and then asked Sarah, "If I want a divorce, and I want to leave him with absolutely nothing, what do I need to prepare?" Less than 5 minutes after the message was sent, Sarah called. "Liv, are you okay? He hit you?" Sarah's tone was rushed and heartbroken. "I'm fine. One slap won't kill me." Olivia's voice was perfectly steady. "What do you mean it won't kill you? Domestic violence is domestic violence. Once is too many." Sarah took a deep breath and lowered her voice. "Listen to me. Given your situation, your husband committed adultery, fathered a child out of wedlock, and committed an act of domestic violence. These are highly favorable pieces of evidence for you in a divorce. If you gather enough solid proof, you can absolutely dominate the asset division, making sure he gets little to nothing. You can also sue for emotional distress. What exactly do I need to collect?" Sarah listed them out one by one. First, the injury on your face. Go to urgent care or the emergency room immediately to get a medical evaluation. The sooner, the better. Tomorrow morning at the latest. Second, evidence of his infidelity. Text messages, bank transfers, photos, videos. Gather as much as you possibly can. Third, the child he had with that woman. If you can get your hands on the birth certificate or any documentation proving paternity, that's a golden ticket. Fourth, a complete inventory of your joint marital assets. The house, the car, savings accounts, investment portfolios. Organize everything. And Liv, Sarah emphasized, when he hit you and told you to get out today, did you record it? Olivia shook her head, then realized Sarah couldn't see her. "No, it happened too fast. I didn't have time." "That's okay. The medical report and your photos will serve as evidence of the abuse. But from this second forward, you need to be constantly ready to record. Make it a habit. Anytime he or his family tries to talk to you, turn on your phone's voice memo app before they open their mouths." "I understand." "Liv," Sarah's voice softened. "Don't be afraid. I am right here. I will fight this war with you." After hanging up, Olivia felt a new surge of strength. She knew that from this moment on, she was no longer the compromising, long-suffering wife. She was going to fight for everything she was owed. That night, Olivia slept in the master bedroom, and Mark slept in the guest room. They didn't speak another word to each other. Early the next morning, before Mark was even awake, Olivia quietly slipped out of the house. She drove to a nearby hospital emergency room and had a doctor examine her injury. The doctor saw the handprint on her face, frowned, and asked if she had been assaulted. She told the truth. Shaking his head, the doctor took photos for the medical record and wrote up a detailed clinical report. With the medical report in hand, Olivia drove straight to Sarah's law firm. When Sarah saw the bruise on Olivia's face, her eyes welled up with tears. She grabbed her hand and said, "That absolute animal. You gave him 5 years of your life." "No more," Olivia said calmly. Sarah helped her map out the existing evidence and then told her the next crucial steps. "The most important thing now is getting substantive proof of his affair. Text messages are only one part. If you can prove he's cohabitating with Chloe, secure the baby's birth certificate, or pull detailed records of his bank transfers to her, we will have an ironclad case. Do not tip him off right now," Sarah instructed. "Go back home and act like nothing happened. Let him think you have accepted your fate. Once his guard is down, you'll have the perfect opportunity to gather the rest." Olivia nodded. She understood this was a war that required immense patience. When she returned home, Mark had already left for work. He had left a sloppy note on the coffee table. "Call me when you've thought it through." Olivia glanced at it, crumpled the paper into a ball, and tossed it into the trash can. For the next few days, Olivia went to work as usual and maintained a normal routine at home. Mark asked her once if she had made up her mind. Olivia just gave him a cold stare and said nothing. Mark probably realized he had crossed a major line that night. His attitude softened slightly. Although he never apologized, he stopped demanding she go serve Chloe. However, he made a different demand. One evening, Olivia was cooking in the kitchen. Mark walked out of the guest room, leaned against the doorframe, looked at her back and said, "I found a part-time mother's helper for Chloe. It costs $100 a day, about $3,000 a month. We are going to pay for it out of our joint account." The spatula in Olivia's hand paused. "What did you say?" She didn't turn around. "I said the cost of hiring help for Chloe will come out of our joint account." Mark's tone suggested this was a completely reasonable arrangement. It's not easy for her to take care of the baby alone. "I have to do my duty." Olivia slowly turned around and looked at Mark's face. He looked entirely serious. He truly didn't see anything wrong with this demand. She remembered Sarah's advice. Do not tip him off. She swallowed her bubbling rage, forced a nod, and said, "Do what you have to do." Mark clearly didn't expect her to agree so easily. He froze for a second, then smiled. "That's more like it. It's good that you're thinking clearly. What happened with Chloe and me is already done. Fighting with me won't fix it. If we both take a step back, we can still live a good life." Olivia didn't reply. She turned back around and continued cooking. The smoke from the skillet stung her eyes, but she didn't shed a single tear. Over the next 2 weeks, Olivia acted as if she had accepted her reality. Her attitude toward Mark became much milder. Occasionally, she even asked him if work was tiring or what he wanted for dinner. Mark thought she had finally seen reason. He became much friendlier, talked more, and came home for dinner more often. A few times, he even brought home fresh fruit. But what he didn't know was that Olivia was quietly building her arsenal. First came the text messages. After getting caught texting Chloe last time, Mark had changed his phone passcode. But since Olivia never brought it up again, he assumed the storm had passed. Finding the new passcode annoying, he quickly changed it back to the old one, his own birthday. The man was arrogant to his core. He never respected Olivia's feelings and honestly didn't believe she had the spine to turn on him. Every night after he fell asleep, Olivia would gently take his phone and scroll through his iMessages with Chloe. The contents were sickening. Chloe's contact name was saved with heart emojis. The chat was full of nauseating affection. "Husband, our son gained weight today. He looks exactly like you. Baby, when are you coming to see me and our son? When are you finally going to divorce her? I don't want to live like this forever." Mark's replies were equally revolting. Soon. I'm just waiting for the right moment. Be good. As soon as I handle things on this end, I'll marry you. You've been working so hard. I'll transfer you some extra money this month." Olivia took screenshots of every single conversation and uploaded them straight to her cloud. Next were the financial records. She dug through Mark's Zelle, Cash App, and banking apps. She discovered that starting early last year, he had been transferring money to Chloe every single month. The amounts ranged from $1,000 to $2,500. Recently, because of the pregnancy and birth, the amounts skyrocketed. Just last month, he sent her $5,000. In total, he had transferred over $40,000 to Chloe. $40,000. All of it marital property. On top of that, she noticed another suspicious expense. About a year ago, Mark started setting up an automatic transfer of $1,500 every month to his mother, Barbara. This amount triggered alarms in Olivia's head. Her mother-in-law had a solid pension and low living expenses. Previously, Mark had never routinely sent her large sums of money. Giving her a few $100 for Christmas or her birthday was the extent of it. This monthly $1,500 had been going on for a year, totaling $18,000. Was he really supporting his elderly mother? Or was he funneling marital assets under a different name? She drew a massive question mark next to it. Olivia also found a lease agreement buried in Mark's briefcase. He had rented a 2-bedroom apartment for Chloe in the North End for $1,500 a month, starting last June. That meant he had been keeping Chloe for well over a year. She took clear photos of all these documents. Her most explosive discovery was a folder locked in Mark's desk drawer. It contained Chloe's prenatal records and the baby's official birth certificate. Right there on the birth certificate, clearly printed under father, was Mark's full name. Olivia guessed he had brought it home to file some sort of paperwork or insurance claim, and locked it in his desk, fearing it might get lost at Chloe's place. Looking at the document, Olivia's hands shook uncontrollably. Not from heartbreak, but from sheer adrenaline. This was the golden ticket Sarah had talked about. With this, combined with the texts and the bank records, She had absolute leverage. She organized all the evidence and made 3 copies. One for her safe deposit box, one in the cloud, and one she handed directly to Sarah. After reviewing the files, Sarah patted her on the shoulder. "Liv, this is it. This is more than enough to prove he committed severe marital misconduct. You will absolutely crush him in the asset division. We can demand he leave with practically nothing. Furthermore, since he secretly funneled joint assets to his mistress, you have the legal right to demand every penny of it back. As for the money he sent his mother, given the timing and the amounts, it's highly probable he was committing asset dissipation disguised as familial support. We will present it to the judge and let the court decide." "When do I confront him?" Olivia asked. "Don't rush it," Sarah thought for a moment. "Give it a few more days. See if he slips up and hands us more leverage. The more evidence, the higher your chances of total victory. Also, find an excuse to visit the apartment he rented for her. Try to get proof that they are living together like a married couple." Olivia nodded. She already had a plan. Right on cue, her mother-in-law, Barbara, decided to pay a visit. It was a Saturday afternoon. Olivia was organizing the house when the doorbell rang. She checked the peephole. It was Barbara. She was holding a basket of fruit and wearing a smile that looked painfully forced. Alarm bells rang in Olivia's head. Remembering Sarah's advice, she discreetly pulled out her phone, started a voice recording, slipped it into her pocket, and opened the door. "Hi, Barbara. What brings you by?" Barbara walked in, didn't sit down, paced around the living room twice, and then grabbed Olivia's hands with exaggerated affection. "Liv, honey, I came over today because I wanted to ask you a little favor." Her mother-in-law was usually distant and critical. This sudden warmth meant trouble. "What is it, Barbara?" Barbara sat down on the couch, patted the cushion next to her, gesturing for Olivia to sit. She cleared her throat. "Liv, Mark mentioned to me that a friend of his just had a baby. She has no one to help her recover. We were hoping you could go over and lend a hand." Olivia paused. She noticed Barbara used the word friend, not that woman or Chloe. This meant either Mark lied to his mother and didn't tell her it was his mistress and illegitimate child, or Barbara knew exactly what was going on but was deliberately packaging it as a favor for a friend. Regardless of the truth, it made Olivia sick to her stomach. "Barbara, which friend are you talking about?" Olivia pretended to be clueless. Barbara's eyes darted away for a split second before she casually replied, "Oh, just a former coworker of Mark's. Her last name is Chloe. The poor girl is all alone here and her family is out of state. It's so sad. Mark said you're so good at taking care of people. We just thought you could go over for a few days. It's really not asking much, right?" Olivia stared quietly at her mother-in-law. She was now 100% certain that Barbara knew about Chloe, and she knew the child was Mark's. Otherwise, why on earth would she ask her daughter-in-law to go act as a nursemaid for a random coworker? "Barbara," Olivia's voice was perfectly level. "Did Mark tell you she was just a friend?" Barbara's smile froze for a fraction of a second before snapping back into place. "What do you mean? Of course they are just friends. What else could they be? That Chloe is Mark's mistress. The child is Mark's. You know all of this, don't you?" The air in the living room instantly solidified. The smile vanished completely from Barbara's face. She stared at Olivia for several seconds, her mouth opening and closing. Finally, she let out a long sigh, and her entire demeanor shifted. "Since you already know, I won't beat around the bush. Yes, Chloe is Mark's girlfriend. She is a homewrecker," Olivia corrected her. "Don't use such ugly words." Barbara's face darkened. "So what if a man has another woman on the side? It doesn't stop you from being his legal wife. Look at yourself. Married for 5 years. And you couldn't even give the family a child. At least Chloe gave Mark a big, healthy boy. What right do you have to look down on her?" These words were like a dull blade sawing at Olivia's heart. It wasn't that she didn't want to get pregnant. Mark refused to let her. Every time she brought it up, he made excuses. Looking back, he did it on purpose. He already had Chloe. He had planned this all along. Wait for the right moment, divorce her, and move in with Chloe. "Barbara." Olivia took a deep breath, suppressing the rolling storm in her chest. "Regardless of your justifications, I will never agree to go play nursemaid to that woman. You." Barbara slammed her hand on the armrest and stood up. "Listen to me very clearly. That child is my grandson. He is our family's blood. His mother is recovering and has no help. As Mark's wife, what is the big deal if you go help out? If you were a real woman, you'd have had one yourself. You can't have kids and now you're bitter that someone else did? That has absolutely nothing to do with whether I go serve her or not." Olivia stood up, looking her mother-in-law dead in the eye. "Barbara, I respect you as an elder, but you cannot be entirely blind to right and wrong. Mark keeping a woman and having a child outside of our marriage is entirely his fault. Expecting me to serve his mistress isn't a favor. It is an extreme insult. Fine, fine, fine. You think you're so tough now, don't you? Barbara's tone turned bitter and aggressive. Let me tell you right now. If you don't go, Mark will divorce you. When that happens, you will be left with nothing. Don't say I didn't warn you. Then let him divorce me. Olivia's voice didn't waver in the slightest. Barbara clearly hadn't expected her to agree so quickly. She was stunned for a moment, then sneered. You think a divorce means you get to take advantage of us? The house is in my son's name. The car is in his name. You won't get a single red cent. Olivia didn't reply. She just watched her. Barbara stood there for another minute. Seeing that Olivia wasn't backing down, she angrily grabbed her purse and stomped toward the door. As she crossed the threshold, she threw one last threat over her shoulder. Just wait. When Mark gets home, we'll see how he deals with you. The door slammed shut. Olivia stood in the living room, her heart pounding, but her mind remarkably sharp. She walked back to her bedroom, took out her phone, and confirmed the recording app was still running. From the moment Barbara walked in to the moment she left, every single word had been recorded with crystal clarity, including Barbara's admission of Chloe and the baby's existence, including Barbara using the threat of divorce, including all of her vicious insults. She backed up the audio file and sent a quick text to Sarah summarizing the visit. Sarah replied immediately. Brilliant. Your mother-in-law's statements act as corroborating evidence of his adultery and the illegitimate child. This audio is gold. Stay calm. Do not start a fight with him. Let them hang themselves. Sure enough, Mark came home that evening looking furious. Clearly, he had spoken to his mother. He threw his briefcase onto the sofa, marched into the kitchen where Olivia was boiling pasta, and launched into an interrogation. My mom came to talk to you today. Why did you refuse again? What the hell is your problem? Olivia calmly wiped her hands on her apron, tapped her pocket to ensure her phone was recording, and continued stirring the pot. She didn't even look up. I already told you. I am not going to serve that woman. She is not that woman. Her name is Chloe. Mark raised his voice. Fine, Chloe. Olivia finally looked up at him. Then explain to me why your wife should go serve your mistress postpartum. Give me one reason. One single logical reason. Mark opened his mouth, but no words came out. You can't. Because there is no logical reason. Olivia turned off the stove and plated the pasta. Mark, let me ask you one last time. Are you planning to divorce me so you can be with her? Mark was silent for a long time. Then he said, I don't want a divorce. What happened with her was just a moment of weakness, but the child is already here. I can't just abandon him. I want you to be the bigger person and accept reality. We can just keep living our lives. The bigger person. Olivia heard that phrase again. She found it simultaneously infuriating and hilarious. You cheat, have a baby with another woman, fund her life with our joint money, and now you want me to be her nurse. And you call that being the bigger person? Mark, what do you see me as? Your indentured servant? Can you stop holding on to this? Mark rubbed his face in frustration. Fine, forget about taking care of her. But stop bringing up divorce. Let's just pretend none of this ever happened. Pretend none of this ever happened? Olivia put down her fork and stared deep into Mark's eyes. Did you forget that you slapped me? Did you forget you told me to get the hell out? Did you forget you mocked me for not being able to give you a child? Mark's face changed. Clearly, he knew he had crossed a massive line that night. Having it thrown back in his face made him defensive. I was wrong that night, he muttered. I shouldn't have hit you. But you share the blame. If you had just agreed to help out, none of this would have happened. Olivia shook her head. She knew there was absolutely no reasoning with this man. Fine, I'm done arguing with you. She picked up her plate and headed to the bedroom. Make your own dinner. After closing the door, Olivia checked her phone. The recording had captured everything. This conversation was yet another nail in his coffin. Over the next week, the atmosphere in the house was incredibly tense. Mark didn't bring up serving Chloe again, but his behavior grew more brazen. He left the house almost every single night, claiming he was going to see the baby. Sometimes he came back after midnight, sometimes he didn't come back at all. Olivia didn't fight or scream. She simply documented everything. Mark's departure and arrival times, the texts and bank transfers on his phone, his location data. She also took Sarah's final piece of advice. One day after work, she didn't drive home. Instead, she drove to the North End apartment complex where Mark was renting the unit for Chloe. She parked her car down the street and waited for about 40 minutes before Mark's SUV pulled into the lot. Olivia pulled out her phone and recorded his car entering the complex. She waited in her car for another hour until the sun fully set. Then, she walked into the building. Following the address on the lease agreement, She went up to the 6th floor and found Unit 603. The hallway was quiet, lit by dim overhead lights. Standing outside the door, she could faintly hear the sound of a baby crying inside, along with a man and a woman talking. It was Mark's voice. "Why is our son crying again? Is he hungry?" Then Chloe's voice. "I just fed him. He probably needs a diaper change. Can you hand me the wipes?" Their tones were natural and intimate, exactly like a married couple. Standing in the hallway, Olivia felt a momentary surge of grief. But it was quickly replaced by an overwhelming sense of determination. She didn't knock. She simply took out her phone, recorded the audio bleeding through the door, snapped a few photos of the 603 apartment number, and walked away. Back in her car, she waited until about 10:30, when Mark's car finally pulled out of the complex. She tailed him from a distance, watching as he drove all the way back to their house. Everything checked out. The next day, Olivia handed all the new evidence over to Sarah. After reviewing it, Sarah said, "Your evidence is bulletproof. However, before we formally file the papers, I need to do a little more groundwork. I'll issue a subpoena to obtain his official property deeds and full, unredacted bank statements directly from the institutions. We need to officially verify the status of all marital assets. The discovery process should take about a week." "Do it," Olivia said. Sarah looked at her, asking seriously, "Are you absolutely sure? Once I file, there is no turning back." From the moment he slapped me, there was no turning back. Sarah nodded. Over the following week, Sarah executed the legal discovery. She pulled the deeds for the house and the car and subpoenaed the last 2 years of Mark's primary bank records. Once everything was verified, Sarah drafted the formal divorce petition. About 2 weeks after the petition was filed with the family court, Mark was served with papers. That evening, he stormed into the house holding the manila envelope. His face was ashen. He slammed the papers onto the coffee table and glared at Olivia, who was sitting on the couch reading a book. "You actually sued me for divorce?" "Yes." Olivia turned a page, not even looking up. "Are you insane?" Mark practically roared. "Do you have any idea what will happen if this gets out? How am I supposed to show my face at work? My coworkers, my boss, they'll all know. Are you trying to destroy my life? When you were keeping a mistress and having a baby behind my back, did you ever stop to think if you were destroying your own life?" Olivia finally looked up, her gaze indifferent. "Mark, you are responsible for the consequences of your own actions." Mark paced around the living room like a trapped animal. He pointed a finger at Olivia, opening his mouth several times, but failing to form a complete sentence. Finally, he collapsed onto the sofa, buried his head in his hands, and sat in silence for a long time. "What exactly do you want?" he asked, his voice muffled. "A divorce." Olivia closed her book. "Assets divided according to the law. You committed adultery, fathered a child out of wedlock, committed domestic violence, and hid marital assets. All of these are severe faults. Under the law, the at-fault party is heavily penalized in the division of assets. I have gathered all the evidence. You have zero chance of winning." "What evidence?" Mark's head snapped up. Olivia picked up her phone and opened a secured folder. Inside, neatly categorized, was a mountain of proof. She showed them to Mark one by one. "These are your iMessages with Chloe. Every single disgusting conversation from last year to now, including you explicitly promising to divorce me and marry her. These are your bank statements and Zelle transfers. Over $40,000 transferred to Chloe. Every transaction timestamped. This is the lease for the apartment in the North End. You are listed as the primary leaseholder. This is the baby's birth certificate. Your name is under father. These are the photos of my bruised face from the night you hit me, along with the official urgent care medical report. This is the audio recording of your mother coming to my house to threaten me into serving Chloe. She openly admitted the baby is yours. And this," Olivia scrolled to the final file, "is the video and audio I took outside the North End apartment, your car, Unit 603, your voice talking to her inside." Mark stared at the files on the screen. His face went from pale to ghostly white, and then to a sickly gray. When did you get all this?" His voice shook uncontrollably. "Starting the night you slapped me." Olivia pulled her phone back. "Did you really think my quiet behavior these past few weeks meant I was giving in? No. I was just waiting for the perfect time to end you." Mark slumped back onto the couch as if all the bones in his body had been removed. "You can't do this," he muttered. "If you take this to court, I'm ruined. My job, my reputation. When you hit me, did you care about me? When you told me to go serve your mistress, did you care about my dignity? When you wired thousands of dollars to that woman every month, did you care that you were stealing our joint money?" Olivia fired the questions rapidly, leaving Mark speechless. "You never cared," Olivia stood up, "so do not expect me to show you mercy now. Liv. Mark reached out to grab her. Don't touch me. Olivia took a step back. You have two choices. Option 1. You agree to an uncontested divorce. You sign the settlement. I keep the house. I keep the car. You repay every single dollar you funneled to your mistress. You leave with nothing. Option 2. We go to trial. The judge will order the exact same thing, except the entire city will know what you did. Think it over. Mark sat frozen like a statue. Olivia didn't spare him another glance as she turned and walked into her bedroom. The next day, Mark called out of work. When Olivia left the house in the morning, he was still lying on the couch. It looked like he hadn't slept at all. The ashtray was overflowing with cigarette butts, and the living room reeked of smoke. His eyes were completely bloodshot. When he saw Olivia come out of the bedroom, he opened his mouth to say something, but ultimately stayed silent. Olivia ignored him and went to work. At noon, she received a text from Mark. My mom wants to see you. This afternoon. The usual place. The usual place meant the diner near Barbara's old neighborhood where they used to eat on Sundays. Olivia hesitated. She didn't really want to go, but then she figured this might be the last time she ever had to deal with her mother-in-law. Whatever they had to say, she would listen. Plus, if Barbara said anything else unhinged, it would just be more evidence. She took a half-day off and drove to the diner. When she arrived, she found that Barbara wasn't alone. Mark was there too. He sat in the booth with his head bowed low. Barbara sat across from him, her expression grim. 2 cups of coffee sat untouched on the table. You're here, Liv. Sit down. Barbara's tone lacked her usual arrogance. Instead, it carried a rare, awkward politeness. Olivia sat down, discreetly ensuring her phone's recording app was running in her purse. What is it, Barbara? Just say it. Barbara sighed, glanced at Mark, and then turned to Olivia. Liv, you can't get a divorce. And why is that? Mark knows he made a mistake. Barbara patted Mark's arm. Tell your wife. Tell her what you told me last night. Mark looked up. His eyes were red, like he had been crying. He looked at Olivia, his lips trembling, and spoke in a raspy voice. Liv, I was wrong. I shouldn't have cheated. I shouldn't have hit you. I shouldn't have asked you to take care of her. Please, don't divorce me. Olivia listened to his plea, her face showing absolutely zero emotion. Why do you think an apology fixes everything? She asked. I truly realize my mistake, Mark pleaded. I will agree to whatever conditions you want. I will cut Chloe off completely. I'll never talk to her again. The baby. I'll handle the baby situation. It won't affect you. It won't affect me? Olivia let out a cold laugh. That child is already born. He has a birth certificate with your name on it. How exactly will he not affect me? Even if you block Chloe, you are legally obligated to pay child support. How are you going to pay for it? With our joint money? Do you expect me to stay your wife while simultaneously financing your illegitimate kid? Mark was struck dumb. Barbara panicked and interjected. Liv, can't you just be a little more generous? Mark has apologized. What more do you want? Men make mistakes. He's fixing it, isn't he? Divorcing him over this little thing is crazy. This little thing? Olivia turned her sharp gaze on her mother-in-law. He commits adultery, fathers a child, commits domestic violence, steals marital assets, and demands his wife serve his mistress. And in your eyes, this is just a little thing? Barbara withered under Olivia's intense stare, her face turning red, lacking the courage to snap back. Barbara, I respected you. Olivia's tone was icy but polite. But I'll make myself very clear today. This divorce is happening. If you truly want to help Mark, tell him to sign the uncontested settlement agreement. Otherwise, we go to court, and the outcome will be infinitely uglier for him. You heartless woman. Barbara's lips quivered with rage. Mom, stop. Mark cut his mother off, then turned back to Olivia. Liv, are you really leaving no room for negotiation? Are you just throwing away 5 years of marriage? It wasn't me who left no room for negotiation. Olivia stood up. It was you two who burned the bridge. The second you told me to serve your mistress. The second you slapped me. The second you told me to get out, you made the decision for me. She grabbed her purse and stopped at the edge of the booth, looking back one last time. Mark was slumped in his seat, his arms hanging limply. Barbara was pale, her lips pressed into a tight line. You have 3 days, Olivia said. In 3 days, if you agree to sign the settlement, we file the papers peacefully. If you don't, I will see you in court. With that, she walked out the door. During those 3 days, Mark called Olivia constantly. Sometimes he begged, Liv, please give me one more chance. I swear I'll change. Sometimes he threatened, don't push me. If we go down, I'll make sure you go down with me. Sometimes he just cried. Do you know how I'm going to survive at the firm if everyone finds out? Olivia didn't answer a single call. She relayed all communications strictly through Sarah. Barbara also called. Her tone quickly reverted from polite to violently toxic. Olivia, you ungrateful bitch. My son took care of you for 5 years. And this is how you repay him? You'll burn in hell. Olivia recorded every single voicemail. During this window, Mark did something incredibly stupid. He tried to hide money. Sarah had filed a motion to freeze their assets alongside the divorce petition. The court had frozen their property, cars, and Mark's primary bank accounts. But Mark, refusing to accept defeat, secretly transferred $15,000 from a secondary, unfrozen account to his cousin's bank account, trying to stash cash. What he didn't realize was that Sarah had instructed Olivia to monitor his financial footprint closely. Olivia noticed the transfer in the cloud-synced banking app and immediately alerted Sarah. Sarah laughed coldly. Beautiful. Committing asset dissipation during active litigation. He's not just broke now, he's actively in contempt. When I show this to the judge, the court is going to hand you everything on a silver platter. The 3 days passed. Mark refused to sign. Olivia wasn't surprised. She knew he still harbored a delusion that he could win in court since the house and car were technically in his name. He thought he had leverage. He was dead wrong. On the day of the trial, Olivia wore a sharp, dark pantsuit and minimal makeup. When she walked into the courtroom, Sarah was already waiting at the petitioner's table. Mark sat at the respondent's table. Next to him was a relatively young, inexperienced lawyer who kept flipping through his files, his frown deepening by the minute. He occasionally leaned over to whisper urgently into Mark's ear. Mark's face fluctuated between green and white. Seeing the massive stack of evidence binders on Sarah's table had clearly triggered a panic attack. Barbara was in the gallery, sitting in the front row, wearing a dark red coat. She looked nervous but defiant, glaring daggers at Olivia as if trying to swallow her whole. Olivia didn't look at her once. She sat perfectly still at her table, her posture straight and commanding. The judge was a stern woman in her 50s, wearing wire-rimmed glasses. She projected absolute authority. She reviewed the preliminary filings and called the court to order. Sarah stood up and presented the petitioner's case with devastating clarity. Your Honor, the petitioner, Olivia, and the respondent, Mark, were married 5 years ago. During the marriage, the couple purchased a home and a vehicle, with the down payments and mortgages paid from joint marital funds. During the marriage, the respondent committed the following severe acts of marital misconduct. First, maintaining a long-term adulterous relationship with a third party, Chloe, resulting in the birth of a child out of wedlock. We have submitted text messages, bank transfer records, and the child's birth certificate bearing the respondent's name as Exhibit A. Second, the respondent committed asset dissipation by secretly transferring over $40,000 of marital funds to the third party. Additionally, the respondent began making uncharacteristic, monthly transfers of $1,500 to his mother's account, totaling roughly $18,000 over the past year. Given the timeline correlating perfectly with his adultery, and the fact that his mother has an adequate pension, the petitioner argues this was a fraudulent transfer of marital assets disguised as family support. Third, upon the petitioner's refusal to act as a postpartum nurse for his mistress, the respondent committed an act of domestic violence, resulting in facial trauma. We have submitted photographic evidence and a certified urgent care medical report as Exhibit B. Fourth, during the pendency of this litigation, the respondent actively attempted to hide assets by transferring $15,000 to his cousin's bank account, defying the court's financial injunction. The bank records are submitted as Exhibit C. Sarah paused, letting the weight of the evidence settle over the courtroom. Given the respondent's egregious behavior, adultery, domestic violence, and malicious dissipation of assets, the petitioner respectfully requests the dissolution of the marriage, the award of the marital home and vehicle to the petitioner, full restitution of the dissipated funds, emotional distress and punitive damages in the amount of $15,000. The courtroom was dead silent. The only sound was the rustling of the judge turning the pages of the evidence binder. Mark's lawyer stood up to offer a rebuttal, but he sounded completely defeated before he even began. Your Honor, my client admits to certain missteps in the marriage. However, the petitioner's demands are draconian. The home and vehicle are titled solely in my client's name, and he contributed significantly to the mortgage. Furthermore, the transfers to his mother were simply a son supporting an elderly parent and should not be classified as asset dissipation. Sarah fired back instantly. First, regardless of the name on the title, the funds used for purchase and equity building originated from commingled marital accounts, making them community property. Second, regarding the support of the mother, the respondent never exhibited a pattern of large monthly transfers prior to his affair, nor did he consult his wife. It is clearly systemic asset hiding. Third, Sarah held up a piece of paper. Transferring $15,000 to a cousin after being served with divorce papers is a textbook violation of a financial restraining order. Under the law, a party attempting to defraud the court and their spouse can be penalized with forfeiture of their share of the assets. The judge listened intently. She flipped to the text messages, her brow furrowing in disgust. She looked at the birth certificate, then shot a hard glare at Mark. When she reached the urgent care report detailing the assault, her jaw tightened visibly. "Counsel for the respondent," the judge said coldly. "Does your client contest the validity of this evidence?" The young lawyer looked helplessly at Mark. Mark stared at his shoes for a long time before croaking, "The texts and the money are real. The baby is mine. But hitting her was an accident. I just lost my temper. Accident or not, domestic violence is domestic violence," the judge snapped. The medical report is entered into the record. From the gallery, Barbara suddenly jumped up and shrieked, "Judge, you can't listen to her. She was a terrible wife. She wouldn't even lift a finger around the house and had a horrible temper." "Order!" The judge slammed her gavel down. "Gallery members will remain silent or be held in contempt and removed by the bailiff. One more word, ma'am, and you will spend the night in lockup." Barbara froze, utterly terrified by the judge's authority. She clamped her mouth shut and sank into her seat, though her eyes were still burning with hatred. The judge asked a few clarifying questions regarding the financial timelines, confirmed the details, and announced a recess before issuing the ruling. Walking out of the courtroom doors, Mark's lawyer pulled him aside and whispered furiously. Mark looked physically ill. The reality of his impending destruction had finally set in. Olivia walked beside Sarah. "What do you think?" Sarah smiled faintly. "Relax." His defense was non-existent. Plus, trying to hide money during an active lawsuit is a massive red flag for any judge. "I am highly confident you're getting the house and the car. As for the money he sent his mom, the judge might exercise some discretion, but you'll get the bulk of it back." "Good." Olivia exhaled a long breath. Suddenly, rapid footsteps approached from behind. It was Barbara. "Olivia!" Barbara's voice was shrill. "Don't look so smug. Even if you win, you're going to live a miserable life. A vicious, cold-blooded bitch like you will eventually." "Barbara," Olivia stopped and turned around. She used her first name. They were no longer family. Things got to this point because of your choices, not mine. When Mark cheated, you covered for him. When he demanded I serve his mistress, you backed him up. When he hit me, you said nothing. You never treated me like family. So why should I show your family any mercy?" Barbara opened her mouth, but not a single word came out. Olivia turned around and walked away without looking back. The afternoon sun hit her shoulders. Her steps were steady and confident. Sarah quickly caught up, gave her shoulder an approving squeeze, and said nothing. For a brief moment, Olivia's eyes watered. But she looked up at the clear blue sky, took a deep breath, and blinked the tears away. The official ruling arrived in the mail a month later. The court found the facts overwhelmingly clear and the evidence indisputable. The judge heavily favored Olivia's petition. The divorce was granted. The marital home was awarded entirely to Olivia, with Olivia assuming the remainder of the mortgage. The vehicle was awarded entirely to Olivia. The dissipated funds, the $40,000 sent to Chloe and the $15,000 sent to the cousin totaling $55,000, must be reimbursed to Olivia within 30 days. Regarding the $18,000 sent to the mother, the court acknowledged some portion might be construed as familial support, but penalized Mark for the lack of transparency, ordering $12,000 to be reimbursed. The court awarded $10,000 in emotional distress damages. In total, Mark was legally ordered to pay Olivia $77,000 in cash restitution. When Sarah received the judgment, she immediately called Olivia. "We won. The house and car are yours. We clawed back almost all the hidden money. The emotional damages are slightly less than we asked for, but the overall victory is total." When Olivia heard the news, she was sitting on her balcony. The sunset had dyed the sky a brilliant shade of orange. A warm breeze, carrying the scent of early summer, brushed past her. She looked at the PDF of the court order on her phone and smiled. It wasn't a smile of ecstatic joy, but one of profound relief. It was finally over. A 5-year marriage. From the bright hopes of the beginning to the gradual drifting apart, culminating in total destruction. Along the way, she had lost a lot. 5 years of her youth. Her faith in marriage. A love she once thought would last forever. But she also gained a lot. She got the house, she got the car, she got the financial compensation she deserved. Most importantly, she learned a massive lesson and reclaimed her own identity. She knew there was a gap between a piece of paper and actual cash. Given Mark's current financial ruin, he wouldn't be able to drop $77,000 at once. But Sarah already had that covered. If he didn't pay within 30 days, Sarah would file a motion to garnish his wages directly from his employer. The money would come in installments, but he couldn't run from it. Olivia wasn't stressed. She had learned patience. What was hers would come to her, not a penny less. On the first weekend after the judgment became official, Mark came to pack his things. He brought 2 large suitcases and a few trash bags. He quietly pulled his clothes out of the closet, piece by piece. Olivia sat in the living room, watching him go back and forth in total silence. Halfway through packing, Mark stopped. He held a winter coat standing in the bedroom doorway, looking at Olivia as if he wanted to say something. "What?" Olivia asked. "This coat. It was the birthday gift you got me the year we got married." Mark looked down at the fabric, his voice barely a whisper. "Do you remember? You drove to 3 different malls just to find the exact style I wanted." Olivia was quiet for a few seconds. "Take it with you." Mark packed the coat into the suitcase. He didn't speak again. Once he finished packing, he dragged the suitcases to the front door. He paused with his hand on the knob and looked back. "Liu." "Yeah?" "I'm sorry." It was his first genuine apology. Not a manipulation to keep her, not a tactic to dodge legal penalties, just a simple "I'm sorry." Olivia looked at him, looked at the face of the man she had once loved deeply. A faint, dull ache rippled through her chest, but it faded almost instantly. "Take care of yourself," she said softly. Mark nodded, turned the handle, and walked out. The moment the door clicked shut, Olivia listened to the sound of his footsteps echoing down the hallway, step by step, fading away, until the elevator dinged and swallowed the sound completely. She sat alone in the quiet, spacious living room and looked around. The rectangular, faded patch on the wall showed where their wedding portrait used to hang. The vacation magnets on the fridge had been thrown away. The pothos plant on the coffee table was thriving, its leaves a vibrant, healthy green. She had kept it alive all by herself. From today onward, this house was truly hers. Olivia stood up, walked into the kitchen, and poured herself a glass of water. She opened the fridge, took out a leftover carton of strawberries, washed them, and brought them out to the balcony. She sat in the patio chair, eating a strawberry while watching the street below. The evening sidewalks were busy. A young mother walking with a toddler, a teenage couple holding hands, commuters rushing home. Everyone had their own life, their own story. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Are you free this weekend? A new fondue place opened up downtown with amazing reviews. Let's go celebrate." Olivia smiled and texted back. "Sure, you pick the time." Sarah replied instantly. "Lunch tomorrow. It's on me. My biggest victory deserves a celebration." Olivia shook her head, a genuine grin spreading across her face. Life moved forward, day by day. In the first month after the divorce, Olivia redecorated the house. Mark had hated having flowers in the living room, complaining about the falling petals. Now, she bought a massive bouquet of sunflowers and placed it right in the center of the coffee table. The bright gold was an instant mood booster. She converted the guest room into a home office. She bought a massive oak desk and a bookshelf, filling it entirely with the books she had always wanted to read but never had the time for. In the evenings after work, she would brew a cup of herbal tea and read in her office for an hour or 2. It was peaceful. Her career was also taking off. With the divorce behind her, she poured all her energy into her job. The massive project she was leading passed its final audit with flying colors. The client was ecstatic. At the end-of-year review, she was named Employee of the Year. Her director pulled her aside and strongly hinted at a promotion to Vice President of Operations next quarter. "You're operating on a different level lately, Liv." The director smiled. "Completely different vibe. You seem so focused and energized." Olivia smiled modestly. "I guess I just dropped some dead weight." In the second month after the divorce, she got back into a workout routine. She woke up 30 minutes earlier every morning to jog around the neighborhood. On weekends, she joined a hot yoga studio and sometimes went hiking with Sarah and other friends. Her complexion was glowing. She had lost a bit of weight, but she looked stronger and healthier than she had in years. Her coworkers said she was aging backwards. In the third month after the divorce, she received a completely unexpected phone call. It was from Chloe. Olivia stared at the unknown number on the screen for a few seconds before answering. "Hello, is this Olivia?" The voice on the other end was hesitant, laced with nervous tension. "Yes." "Who is this?" "It's Chloe." Olivia fell silent. The other end of the line was silent too. Finally, Chloe spoke, her words rushing out as if she feared she would lose her nerve. "Olivia, I know you probably hate me and don't want to hear my voice, but I wanted to call and say I'm sorry." "You're apologizing to me?" Olivia was genuinely surprised. I know an apology doesn't fix anything. Chloe's voice cracked. But I did a terrible thing. He told me your marriage was completely broken. He said you two were getting a divorce and begged me to wait for him. So I believed him. I waited. I got pregnant. I had the baby. And he still hadn't divorced you. When you guys finally did get divorced, I thought he was going to come to me. She paused. And? Olivia asked, her voice flat. And he ran away. Chloe began to sob. After the divorce, he got kicked out of the house. I thought he would move in with me. But he didn't. First, he said he was too busy at work. Then he said he needed to find his own place to sort out his finances. Then he just stopped answering my calls. Last month, he told me he wasn't going to renew the lease on my apartment and told me to figure it out myself. The child support. He promised me $1,000 a month. Then he cut it to $500. Last month, he didn't send a dime. Listening to this, Olivia felt absolutely no schadenfreude. She just found the woman on the other end incredibly pathetic. Chloe, Olivia spoke up. Why exactly did you call me today? I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Chloe choked on her tears. And I wanted to tell you that you were right. Leaving him was the right thing to do. He isn't a man anyone can rely on. I see that now. But it's too late for me. I'm a single mother with an infant and no job. The child is innocent, Olivia said plainly. As for the child support, take him to family court and file for state intervention. They will garnish his wages. He is the biological father. He cannot escape his legal obligation. Yeah, thank you. Chloe's voice was barely a whisper. Take care of yourself. Olivia hung up the phone and stood by the window for a long time. She remembered something Sarah had told her. A man who will betray his wife will inevitably betray his mistress. The problem isn't the woman, the problem is the man. It turned out to be completely true. Mark couldn't get the comfortable, subsidized life he wanted from Olivia anymore, so he had run to Chloe. When the financial reality of Chloe and the baby became a burden instead of a fantasy, he abandoned them too. He would probably just find another victim down the line. That kind of man would never change. And she didn't have to waste a single second of her life caring about him ever again. Half a year after the divorce, Olivia's parents flew up from their small town in Georgia to visit her. Not wanting them to worry, she hadn't told them the ugly details of the divorce. She just said they had irreconcilable differences and parted amicably. In reality, during those dark months of the divorce, there were many nights she sat alone on her balcony, her thumb hovering over her mother's contact name. She wanted to call her and cry her eyes out, but she always locked her phone and put it away. She didn't want her aging parents hundreds of miles away losing sleep over her. She chose to carry the weight of those agonizing nights entirely on her own shoulders. Her parents were heartbroken about the divorce, but seeing her living in a beautiful, spotless home, looking radiant and successful, put their minds at ease. As long as you're doing well, sweetie, that's all that matters, her mom said, holding her hand. Marriage isn't the end-all be-all. Being happy is... I know, Mom. Olivia rested her head on her mother's shoulder, just like she did when she was a little girl. Her dad stood by the window, looking at the fresh vase of sunflowers. You've got the place looking real nice. Your mom's got a giant jasmine bush out back that's getting too big for the yard. Next time we drive up, I'll bring a pot of it for your patio. It'll look perfect out there. Sounds great, Dad. Olivia smiled. They stayed for a week and then flew back. After they left, Olivia found a check for $2,000 tucked under her pillow. Her eyes teared up, but she didn't try to send it back. She knew it was their way of showing love. Accepting it brought them peace of mind. One weekend, a full year after the divorce, Olivia was deep cleaning the house when her phone rang. It was a caller she never expected. Mark. She hesitated for a moment, then answered. Liu. Mark's voice sounded like he had aged a decade. It was raspy, exhausted, and hollow. What do you want? I just wanted to hear your voice. Mark went silent for a few seconds. I'm not doing very well. After the divorce, my performance at the firm tanked. They transferred me to a satellite office in a cheaper market. My salary got slashed. Half my paycheck gets garnished for what I owe you. I can barely make rent. Chloe is dragging me through court for child support. And my mom's health took a turn. She was hospitalized twice last month. Olivia listened quietly, not interrupting. I know I brought this entirely on myself. Mark let out a long, heavy sigh. If I hadn't made those choices, we wouldn't be here. Liv, I'm not calling to beg for you back, and I'm not asking for a loan. I just wanted to tell you, I really, truly regret it. Olivia held the phone, looking out the window at the sky. It was a beautiful, crisp blue. The afternoon sunlight spilled across the new rug she had bought for the living room. It was warm and perfect. Mark, she said softly, Regret is useless. The past is the past. You and I both have to keep moving forward. You have your path and I have mine. Yeah. The child is innocent. Pay your child support and do your duty. As for the rest of your problems, you'll have to figure them out yourself. I know. The call ended. Olivia placed her phone on the counter and went back to wiping the windows. Her hands were steady. Her heart was completely at peace. Down on the street, a little girl was chasing a butterfly, running and laughing, her face flushed with joy. Her mother trailed closely behind, holding a water bottle, watching her daughter with a loving smile. Olivia watched the scene unfold, and the corners of her mouth naturally curled up. This is life, she thought. Not perfect, but absolutely worth looking forward to. She put down her cleaning supplies, walked out to the patio, and watered the potted jasmine her parents had eventually brought up. The jasmine was in full bloom. Clusters of tiny white flowers practically glowed in the sunlight, releasing a sweet, calming fragrance. She took a deep breath, letting the scent fill her lungs. Then she picked up her phone and texted Sarah, "Are you free next weekend? I want to drive down to the coast. Come with me." Sarah replied instantly, "Hell yes. I've been dying for a beach trip. We are going to take amazing photos, post them on Instagram, and make all our haters sick with jealousy. Ha ha ha." Olivia laughed out loud at her screen. Another 6 months passed. Olivia got the promotion. Her end-of-year review was flawless. At the company all-hands meeting, the VP announced her promotion to Director of Regional Operations. The room erupted in applause. She stood up, gave a slight bow, and delivered a short, classy acceptance speech. After the meeting, coworkers crowded around to congratulate her. A younger female colleague she was close with leaned in and whispered, "Liv, you're literally glowing these days. You used to be so quiet and tense. Now it's like you own the world." Olivia smiled. "I guess I just figured out how to live for myself." The promotion meant a significant pay bump. The mortgage, which used to be a major stressor after the divorce, was now easily manageable. She did the math. With her new salary, after paying the mortgage and bills, she could max out her retirement accounts and still put a substantial amount into savings. Coupled with the monthly court-ordered garnishments from Mark's paycheck, which Sarah had brilliantly set up, so Olivia never had to deal with him directly, her financial foundation was rock solid. That Christmas, she didn't stay in the city. She flew down to her parents' house in Georgia. The winter air in the small southern town carried the scent of pine needles and wood smoke. Her dad was in the backyard deep-frying a turkey, while her mom was in the kitchen bustling around baking pies and preparing the honey-baked ham. Kids from the neighborhood were running down the street on their new bicycles. Olivia sat on the porch swing, helping her mom snap green beans. The winter sun was remarkably warm. The family golden retriever was snoozing happily at her feet. "Liv, honey." Her mom poked her head out the kitchen window. "You know Mrs. Henderson down the street? Her son, the one who owns that logistics company in Atlanta, is back in town for the holidays. He's divorced too, no kids. He's a really great guy." "Mom," Olivia didn't even look up from the green beans. "I'm just saying." Her mom pulled her head back inside defensively. "I'm not forcing you to marry him tomorrow." Her dad, hearing this from the fryer, yelled toward the house. "Leave the girl alone, Martha. She's doing incredible on her own." "I'm just looking out for her," her mom yelled back, sounding slightly offended. Olivia couldn't help but laugh out loud. This was home. No matter how brutal and cold the outside world got, coming back here meant there was always someone worrying about you and a hot meal waiting on the table. On Christmas Eve, the three of them sat around the dining table carving the turkey. A classic holiday movie played on the TV in the background. Her dad, a little tipsy from the holiday bourbon, got red in the face and started telling embarrassing stories about Olivia when she was a toddler, making her mom laugh until she cried. Listening to them, Olivia's heart swelled. She thought back to last Christmas. She was sitting alone in that cold, sterile house in the city, eating a frozen pizza for dinner. Mark hadn't even bothered to text her. Back then, she thought she had hit rock bottom. But look at her now. Her dad was here, her mom was here. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted meat. Looking at the twinkle lights on the tree, she felt like the richest woman in the world. "Come on, Liv. A toast to you." Her dad raised his glass. "Dad, I don't drink bourbon. I'll use cider." Olivia raised her glass. "A toast to my incredible daughter," her dad beamed. Olivia clinked her glass gently against his. "Merry Christmas, Dad." "Merry Christmas, Mom." After the holidays, Olivia returned to the city and began planning her future with renewed ambition. She enrolled in an executive MBA program on the weekends to further her career in operations management. The coursework was grueling. Sometimes she rushed straight from the office to night classes, not getting home until past 10, but she loved every second of it. She discovered that when you pour all your focus into self-improvement, The things that once caused you agonizing pain slowly fade away, eventually becoming nothing more than blurry shadows in the rearview mirror. Sarah noticed the transformation and was secretly overjoyed. Once, while walking downtown after grabbing coffee, Sarah suddenly stopped. "Liv, you are the bravest client I've ever had." "What do you mean?" "A lot of women in your exact situation choose to swallow the abuse, or they completely break down." Sarah looked at her seriously. "But you didn't. You coldly collected the evidence, made a rational, calculated decision, and followed through to the bitter end. Do you know how rare that is?" Olivia shook her head. "I'm not as tough as you think. You have no idea how many nights I stayed awake staring at the ceiling. There were times I almost gave up. I thought, maybe I should just accept it. Maybe this is just my life. But you didn't give up. Because I had you." Olivia smiled at Sarah. "If you hadn't answered my call that night and guided me step by step, I probably wouldn't have survived it." Sarah waved a hand dismissively. "Stop being so sappy, I'm going to throw up. Come on, we're getting drinks. A giant margarita. You're buying. You literally just said coffee was on you. Coffee is coffee. Margaritas are margaritas. Totally different legal jurisdictions." Laughing and shoving each other, they walked into a lively corner bar. When spring finally broke, Olivia took a solo trip to the coast. The beach trip she had planned with Sarah got canceled because Sarah had to prep for a massive trial. It had been delayed for months. This time, Olivia decided not to wait. She packed a weekend bag, got in her SUV, and drove 3 hours to a coastal town in the Carolinas she had never visited before. She arrived just before dusk. The sunset was turning the vast ocean into liquid gold. She took off her sandals and walked barefoot onto the beach, stepping toward the water. The sand, baked by the sun all day, felt incredibly warm and comforting beneath her feet. The ocean breeze tasted of salt, tossing her hair wildly around her face. She stopped where the waves gently washed over her ankles. The water was cool but refreshing. She stood there, looking out at the horizon where the sky and the sea blurred into one infinite expanse. The sun was slowly sinking, shifting from brilliant gold to a deep, fiery orange, and finally to a bruised purple, like a massive, breathtaking oil painting. She remembered the evening 2 years ago. She had come home from work, exhausted, to find Mark waiting on the couch. He had opened his mouth and delivered the words that brought her world crashing down. 2 years had passed. The man who sat on that couch was currently drowning in the miserable, shattered life he had created for himself. And she was standing on a beach she had never seen before. Warm sand beneath her feet, a burning sky above her, listening to the eternal, rhythmic whispering of the waves. She suddenly realized that that slap had woken her up. It had set her free. If that night had never happened, she might still be trapped in a dead marriage, wasting her youth, pathetically waiting for a worthless man to come home. She would never have known that she was entirely capable of building a magnificent life on her own. She would never have discovered that true happiness doesn't come from relying on someone else. It is something you build for yourself. Olivia took her phone out of her pocket and pointed it at the sunset. She snapped a photo, just the ocean, the sky, and the dying sun. No people. She posted it to her Instagram with a simple caption, "To the past, to myself, to all the tomorrows worth fighting for." She slipped the phone back into her pocket and took a deep, cleansing breath. The ocean breeze brushed her cheek, gentle but firm, like an invisible hand wiping away the very last trace of shadow from her eyes. She turned around and walked barefoot back across the sand toward her car. Behind her, the sun finally slipped beneath the waves, but the last streak of golden twilight lingered, stitching the sky and the ocean together. On the wet sand, the trail of footprints she left behind was slowly washed over by the tide, blurring and eventually vanishing completely. Her silhouette grew smaller in the distance, but her steps were steady, step by step by step, walking straight into her future. Alex finished reading this story, and a complex wave of emotion washed over him. It wasn't pity for Olivia. It was a deep, grounding respect for how she dragged herself out of the mud and turned herself into a force of nature. That slap, being told she was useless. That deeply deranged demand for her to act as a postpartum nurse for her husband's mistress. She didn't scream or break down on the spot. She wiped her face, hit record on her phone, and methodically pieced together the bank transfers, the texts, and the birth certificate like a jigsaw puzzle. It wasn't that she didn't hurt. It was that she hurt so much she knew crying was useless. Only hard evidence and the court of law could bring her justice. But what moves Alex the most isn't her total victory in the courtroom. It's the Olivia after the divorce, sitting on her balcony, eating strawberries, watching the sunset, watering the jasmine. The woman who was told she was worthless got a promotion, bought herself flowers, turned a spare room into her sanctuary, and built a life she genuinely loves. Meanwhile, the arrogant man who told her to get out eventually called her, his voice broken, admitting his deep regret. But what good is regret? He didn't just destroy a wife. He destroyed a family and the entire second half of a life he could have shared with someone great. Alex wants to ask you reading this. If you found out your partner betrayed you, would you be as icy and calculated as Olivia, gathering evidence to legally obliterate them? Or would the rage take over? Share your thoughts below. Remember, you don't owe anyone forgiveness. Your only obligation is to not give up on the version of yourself who took the hit, but chose to stand back up anyway. See you next time. Good night.